This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 220 is brought to us by Bybit. Unless you are just simply unable to trade on Bybit, which goes for Americans and a handful of other countries, sorry about that, I do have another option for you down below. Don't be afraid to go look at it. It's pretty good. There is really no reason not to trade with Bybit. It's huge. It has everything you need. And if you click my affiliate link, you get so many bonuses all the time just by being an active trader. To do this, go to the link in the show notes to the Bybit blog. Scroll down to the bottom. Click my affiliate link, get signed up, get deposited, get trading. I have not had a complaint about Bybit in years. And chances are you won't either, because with Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and who wants to hear me talk about dating for the next 20 minutes? Anybody? Well, too bad, because that's what's going to happen today. It is a psychology episode, and I promise you this will tie into finance. But if you don't want to hear me ramble on about a non-financial subject today, feel free to turn off the podcast. You won't hurt my feelings, and just simply join us next week when we'll get more into the nuts and bolts of things. But today, we are talking about something that I think almost all of you suffer from to some degree. I certainly did, and I can say firsthand, when I got rid of it, my life got better dramatically in so many different avenues. Because once I get rid of my scarcity mindset, math and reality were all of a sudden on my side for the rest of my life, which means that before this revelation, they were working against me. Now imagine that. We've said it here before when we talk about compound interest. Compound interest is, Einstein even said it, it's the greatest wonder of the world when it works for you. Conversely, it puts you in a life of slavery when it works against you. That's how important some of these things are. It's very binary in a lot of ways. And being on the wrong side is absolutely terrible, and I don't want anybody to be there. So I know I'm going to get a lot of disagreement from people in this episode, and that is fine. We can still be friends. But I wanted to provide a very real example of a scarcity mindset before I tie it over to trading and investing, because I want to paint a really vivid picture. And if I just stay within the confines of finance, I don't think I'd be doing it justice. I want to make something that's more relatable. And I think I probably have 98, 99% men on this show. Some of you are married and don't need to date. This doesn't really apply to you. Like the opposite of who I would be directing this to would be my co-host on my other podcast, Rob Reinhold. He found the one very early, and he's had a great relationship ever since for a very long time. So I don't talk about things I don't know about, like sustaining a marriage. That would be his department. You guys know I don't talk about many subjects on the show. I really stay within my strengths and my wheelhouse. What's another example? Like TV. I don't really watch any. Whether it's network TV, Netflix shows, Hulu, none of that. I'm very busy, and when I do have any spare time at all, I usually play PlayStation. Just don't watch a ton of TV. So who am I to sit here and even have an opinion? I don't deserve to have an opinion on any of those things. It would be stupid. But dating, believe it or not, is something I do feel comfortable talking about because I have had a lot of experience. And please make no mistake, I am a hard 6 on my absolute best day. I have a couple good features. I have a couple unfortunate features physically, but I have a unique skill set here because of the life I've led so far. 1, I've never been married. 2, I'm in my mid-40s, and I have dated a lot. And I've mentioned this in the past. It was always very easy for me because of my 20 years in hospitality. That is a type of experience you just cannot put a price on. I have probably had, if I said 100,000 personal interactions in my lifetime, and not just, hi, how you doing, fine, goodbye, semi-meaningful interactions with people in my day because of all the shitty hospitality jobs I've had, that's worth something. That has made me extremely comfortable in almost any social environment. And then when it comes to dating, I've always worked with really, really hot girls. Girls that almost everybody who comes in just fawns over. And I'm extremely comfortable talking to them. Mostly because 95% of the time, they are just like anybody else. And there's really nothing to fear on that front. And then as time went on, I often found myself talking to like the hottest girl in the entire place who worked there, which was strange because I was never the best looking guy as far as the staff goes. But it took me a long time to actually put two and two together as to why this was, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I've been able to carry this over to Latin America, which I've spoken about in a previous episode when I talked about living in Latin American countries. Being a gringo will get you in the door pretty easily. Now, the problem is you have to take it from there. And we will talk about that too. But when you're confident in your social ability and you really kind of don't care how the date goes because you don't have a scarcity mindset, you have the opposite like I do, you have an abundance mindset, dates tend to go really well most of the time. And you will often punch well above your weight most of the time. There will be exceptions, but most of the time. Now, the problem is, and I have noticed this through social media, is most guys, especially younger guys, and really even guys into their 30s, 40s, and 50s, they want to date and date a lot. But they have these self-made barriers in their way, and they're completely nonsensical and ridiculous. One of them is certainly their scarcity mindset. I have come to find out that the vast, vast majority of people have this, and they suffer from this. And I guarantee their lives would be so much better if they just didn't have it. But it's more than just that. It is a combination of four things, and I think all four of these things can also translate over to the financial world as well, which is the whole reason I'm bringing all of this up in the first place. And, where I see this problem the most are the social media forums I am a part of. But I mostly spend my time in Nomad forums because that's where I'm probably going to get the most value for myself. I have a few financial forums that I've been a part of for a long time. But the Nomad forums between WhatsApp, Telegram, and Discord, no matter where I go, they really fall into one of two categories. One, doomers. Just nothing but doomers and their doomer nonsense. I've even had forums that weren't this way before, but the thing about doomers is they're socially awkward and they don't give a shit. They will infect any place with their doomer craziness because they feel like it's their duty to inform the entire world of what's really going on out there. So I have erased myself from most of those forums, but the other Nomad ones, dating's a big deal. It's a big part of people's lives. And a lot of people want to come to Latin America, for example, to partake in the great dating opportunities that do exist out here. But there kind of in lies the problem, is most of these people absolutely suck at dating. And that's fine. Again, unless you're a total natural, which I certainly am not. We were all bad at this at first. We were all bad at most things at first. And the only way to get better at them is to learn by doing, but there are so many nonsensical and ridiculous mental barriers in these people's way. And not only that, this leads me into problem number one, is that these people with these stupid, unreasonable, toxic barriers will actually sit there and give advice to other people as it pertains to dating. I'm going to say that again. People who absolutely suck at dating are out there giving advice to people who want help. And I will argue with these people. And I am not somebody who, you guys see me on Twitter. How many times do I get into an argument with somebody on social media? It's one of the biggest wastes of time. But I make an exception for these forums only because I know a lot of people are coming to them to get help because there's very few places you can go to get tailored, experienced help, and they end up walking right into an absolute shit show. I've always said it, never go to these forums for financial advice or dating advice. You will not only not get the advice and the help you need, you will get the worst advice possible and if you take this advice, you're going to end up having a bad time. I will bet, and I've said this on these forums too, is that more often than not, you're getting advice on Latin America from people who have never even been to Latin America. Or else their only experience was like going to Cancun for a vacation or something like that. And when they went there, they probably hung out with Americans and ate hamburgers. Like, these are the people you're getting advice from. So problem number one is you're getting advice from people who don't know anything, have no experience, and are horrible at the thing you want to know about. But you don't know these people personally, and you don't know what their experience is. So you see this, and you have nothing else to go on, and you may end up taking some really, really bad advice. And this partially leads me into the second problem. And this is a problem I call it's all over. I don't know if you guys remember the old UFC announcer, Mike Goldberg. Anytime there was a finish in a UFC fight, his catchphrase was, "It's all over." And I can't get this catchphrase out of my head when I see these people talk. So what'll happen as it pertains to dating in Latin America? God, you see this all the time. This sounds like it would be a one-off. It's not. It's common. You have these people who are looking for the best, most target-rich environment to move to so they can have the easiest time dating. Now, not only do they want a target-rich environment, they want this environment to be filled with the type of women that they like, which already, on the surface, tells me all I need to know about these people. If the only place you can go to have success is the path of least resistance, the area that is the most easy mode, you suck at dating. You should be able to go literally anywhere, especially in Latin America, and have a great time in the dating market. But these people are a mess. I call them spreadsheet jockeys because they're literally using a spreadsheet to find out where the best places are to go, as if women cannot smell this bitch assery on you. Believe me, they can. How do I know? I used to be one of these people. I may not have been doing exactly what they're doing right now, but I thought this way. So I know. And what these people will do is they'll have a place in mind, but then they'll go out and like read a blog post. Oh my God, a blog post. Or they'll watch a video or two on YouTube about women in this particular place behaving badly or just exhibiting traits they don't like. And as soon as they see this, it's all over. That place is now completely cooked, and you should not go there. And I'm over here like, what? And they'll do this with anything. They'll hear a news story about how some tourist was murdered somewhere, and all of a sudden, it's all over. Like, they won't go there now. Never mind, I guarantee you that tourist was a moron and probably went to that place for drugs or prostitution and was acting a fool and got themselves offed, because that's how it almost always happens. But these people are so ridiculous, and it just prevents them from taking any action at all. And you remember how I was saying before, how the people who should not be giving advice are giving advice? Well, the people who should be giving advice are people with actual experience. And a lot of times these people put their experience out in the public eye, on YouTube or on Instagram, and they will actually give advice. And, information is worth whatever somebody is willing to pay for it. So a lot of times they'll have a course or a private room you can enter for a price. And God forbid, as soon as they do that, it's all over. Now they're a scammer. Because all information, all the time, every single time, should be absolutely free, and nobody should be paid for anything ever. A lot of people out there will give really great free advice. Andrew Tate is one of the first people I can think of. He has given amazing advice. He's incredibly smart and has tons of experience. And so many things he says, especially about women, are dead bang on. Believe me. And he does it and articulates it in ways that I never could. But people don't like the way it's presented. Or they don't like the fact that he also charges for things. Or they got all mad that he pumped a meme coin. Or that he went to jail for a charge that got dropped, which they've all been dropped. Or he gave some advice that rubs people the wrong way, like you're nothing if you don't have a Bugatti. Okay. Do you think he really deeply means that? Either way, people see any one of these things and all of a sudden it's all over. Now, at this point, not one thing that comes out of this guy's mouth is valid, which is really a shame. He has genuinely helped a lot of people. And if you hate him, I don't care. You don't have to like him, but you also cannot deny that he has helped a lot of people get the help they need, compared to what most of you do and sit back and shit on these people. It's like that old saying, in life there are creators and there are destroyers. Now, you are not forced to be a creator, but for the love of God, don't be a destroyer. These people are miserable. And what's worse, they always act like they have such great intentions, when if you really dig deep down, that's never the case. It's all a ruse. Anyway, I'll talk more about this when we get into the financial parts. But it's just such a crazy phenomenon how one occurrence can just completely blow up everything. But at the root of this problem, I guarantee, is just it's either people getting their little feelings hurt or the fact that they just don't have any money, so they get upset when anybody charges for anything. And the fact is you do have money. You just don't allocate it where you should be allocating it, nor do you realize that the money you have to spend now is not the only money you're ever going to have for the rest of your life. But believe it or not, most people subconsciously feel this way because of their extraordinary scarcity mindset. And I see this happen the most often when it comes to money and when it comes to dating. You ever see that guy, or have you ever been that guy that gives a really awful woman way too much of your attention and time and love? Why on earth would you ever do that? I'll tell you why. Because you got all happy that a semi-attractive girl actually gave you the time of day, and you and your ridiculous scarcity mindset actually think that this is the only chance you're ever going to get. Once she's gone, it's all over. And it's complete nonsense. If you think this way, just know that you will forever have math and reality working against you every single day for the rest of your life. It's completely untrue. Guys will sit there on these forums and say that this country's girls are like this, and I don't want them. And I'm like, all of them? How many of you dated? Like 0? Probably. At the most 2. So who the hell are you to say anything about any of this? You have no experience. Again, you read a blog post somewhere. You saw a video. You don't even live in Latin America. You've rarely been. Yet, you have this really strong opinion on all of the women in this one particular country. Am I getting this right? There are certain tropes about Latin American women that a lot of guys will complain about. And I don't really complain about any of these things, like the flakiness, the temper. They may ask you for money. If you get really close to them and you date them for a long time or you get married, you will be expected to take care of their family, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, none of these things are good, but if I'm being completely honest with you guys here, these are traits you normally see with poor Latinas. And it's just a numbers thing. Poor Latinas are much more likely to try and take advantage of gringos than middle class and upper class Latinas. Yet this is all anybody ever seems to date, and so this is their experience. And then because it is in their very limited experience what they deal with, they sit there and they tell the whole world, Latinas here are like this. Personally, I generally date women who have their own car. I like middle class and upper class Latinas myself. It's just my preference. And I'll bring this up. I'll be like, what about dating them? And what kind of response do you think I get when I bring this up? 1, there's barely any of them, which is nonsense. If you move to a city with 1 million people, even in Latin America, there will be enough eligible and attractive middle and upper class women for you to date every weekend for the rest of your life. Stupid ass scarcity mindset. And the other problem is they've never dated these girls. I'm like, oh, really? You're going to tell me about these girls and what they're like? They'll always say, oh, they have these expectations and this and that. I'm like, how many have you dated? 0? Probably. So why are you talking about them like you know them? But guys are just ridiculous for the most part, especially when it comes to things like this. Not only do they give advice when they shouldn't, not only do they have this it's all over, dismissive, ridiculous headspace all the time for some reason. And not only do they have a crazy scarcity mindset, I think all three of those things all funnel into number 4, which is very disturbing because this is a character trait that people normally associate with women. And I'm certainly not going to say they're wrong when they do this. But I'm telling you right now, 98% of men are just as bad. And that character trait is a complete lack of accountability. Maybe it's you, Taylor Swift. Maybe you're just bad at dating and you're awkward and you've done nothing to get better at this. And you do nothing but make excuses and blame the girl. And again, how do I know all this? How do I know all this is true? Because I was this way myself for a long time. These guys actually have to man up and look inward and change themselves. And God forbid you suggest that to somebody in a forum where everybody's trying to look good in front of each other. Nobody wants to hear it. They just want to blame everything else. The country, the ethnicity, women in general, it's everybody's fault except for theirs. So these guys all end up being super black pill when it comes to dating and women in general. And I try to come in with my white pillness, and they're just not having it. It gets rejected at every turn. So much to the point where I think I'm just going to kind of stop. And if the blind wants to come in and get led by the blind, then that's just how it's going to be, I guess. People just got to learn the hard way. Guys are just too emotional. You know who else encompasses all of these traits? And I mentioned this a long time ago, but you ever meet those divorcees, those divorce guys that just had a really tough divorce, and now they've sworn off of women permanently? I've met a lot. Remember, I was in the bar and restaurant industry for 20 years. You meet these guys. They come in, and you get a few drinks in them, and they will tell you everything, whether you ask to hear about this or not. It's like maybe this over-emotional state and this social awkwardness you're displaying right now, maybe that was part of the problem. I don't know. But what you will never hear from these people is where they went wrong and the things they could have done better. But they hit all 4 of these issues. They're sitting here giving me advice that I don't want and I know is stupid advice. They embody the it's all over mindset, scarcity mindset, obviously, and complete lack of accountability. And I'm not going to say these guys are going to be sad for the rest of their lives. They end up finding other things, other hobbies that make them happy. But I couldn't imagine a life of a man without women in it. Women are awesome. They give color to a very black and white existence. Yeah, of course, there's some terrible ones out there, but if you have an abundance mindset, you just get rid of them. I give women very little rope to hang themselves, and once they do, they're gone. I don't care how hot they are, because I know there are so many of them. And if you date enough of them, you find some really great ones. Now, for me, I've never been married because I have a pretty unique lifestyle, and not everybody has wanted to be on board with that, nor should they, really, I get it. But as a guy, we do kind of have the superpower of being able to marry and have children whenever we want, so I'm really in no hurry. And me being pro-women is not me being simpy either. I absolutely do not simp. I don't need to, and neither do you. You just don't realize it because you embody 1, 2, or all 4 of the traits I just mentioned. And people end up doing the exact same thing in the financial world. Yes, 23 minutes in, I finally get to it. There is so much bad advice on social media from people with no experience, yet you would rather listen to them than somebody who's actually established. Because God forbid that guy's charging for something, or he's popular, or he has a very contrarian belief that you were programmed not to agree with. And because of these things, you already don't like that person. So you're just waiting for that one thing, that one tiny little thing, that one little chink in the armor you can find to say it's all over and dismiss that person for life. I mean, the amount of great, helpful advice you have probably passed up on because you do shit like this is probably off the charts. I've made this comparison before with ICT. ICT has some negatives. Of course. There's people out there that thinks he does nothing but string people along. Almost any time he enters a contest, he completely bombs it. Yet he still keeps entering them, which is weird. He uses the whole religious angle way too much and says God speaks to him and does all this shit. Great. I don't care. People get so mad because they think they wasted all this time listening to him. I told you before, I spent a year strictly doing the things he taught me to do. And did I decide I didn't like it and move on? Yeah. Did I get all mad that I wasted a year of my life? No. I took his absolute best concept and applied it to my own trading and brought a combination of those two things to the world, and that one thing is called no-nonsense Forex. I have a Google Doc of really great quotes that have helped me along the way. You know who a lot of those quotes are from? Certainly not the majority, but a good amount are from Tai Lopez. Now, what's your current opinion of Tai Lopez? It's probably not super favorable, but man, I'll tell you what, I know a good amount of rich people, and they're not scammers. Like, a lot of these guys just have brick and mortar, companies, and they're crypto traders, and they leave everybody alone. They quote Tai Lopez and Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and guys who have gotten a lot of shit from a lot of people in the past. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I said it with Peter Schiff. He's anti-Bitcoin. He fucked up, and he won't let it go. But most of what he says is really great, and you can learn a lot from it, and it can help you become a better investor. But most people won't do that because men are just too goddamn emotional. And that's a running theme here. Anytime I see emotion and feelings get in the way of what is logically correct, this is where I do feel it's my job to call it out. And these parallels between the problems people have in the dating world and the financial world are very heavily correlated. I don't love doing episodes like this. It feels weird on my end. But I think it's very necessary because I give a lot of information, but I rarely on this particular podcast do I dive more into the psychological side of it, which, as you know probably from trading, if you don't have it locked down, it really doesn't matter what else you know how to do. You are going to constantly get in your own way. And this is what I have tried to prevent. This is why I have dedicated so much time and effort and material to the matter. And I said this in last week's episode. I will bet the majority of you are sitting on more than 50% cash. Not because it makes a lick of sense to do so, but because you have a scarcity mindset that never went away. The fiat people have been brainwashing you ever since you popped out of the womb, and not only have they been, they have been. You know it now. You may not have known it before, but you certainly know it now. You're educated on this matter. Yet, it still doesn't matter. You still hold mostly cash. You might be looking at a particular asset, but then as soon as one piece of negative news comes out for that asset, it's all over. You're never going to look at that asset again. Think about this too. How long have you been listening to this podcast? Because if you're fairly new, let me key you in. We have been very early to gold, silver, uranium, rare earths, Bitcoin, over a dozen crypto tokens at this point. And how much of all that have you taken advantage of? I made you aware of it. I stated a pretty strong case. I have a good reputation on here. How many times were you presented with this opportunity and you chose cash instead? Now, you are certainly not required to do everything I say on here. I know that. You make your own judgments. But looking back on it, how many times did you choose cash instead? And how many times had you wish you hadn't? All because you were programmed to understand, I guess, and I do that in air quotes, that cash doesn't go up and down. It's steady. It's risk-free. When in reality, the opposite could not be more true. All cash does is go down in value over time. You think they left that part out by accident? Scarcity ass mindset. You are so worried that you will never see that money ever again. Even though I've told you so many times that you are not spending your money on something, you're simply relocating it. And two, you will make more money later. I don't care how old you are. Your money-making days are not over. Probably not by a lot. Abundance contrarians. I want you to embrace this. Now, as we approach the 30-minute mark, let's go ahead and get into the solutions. If anybody is interested in what I think are great solutions for not just dating, but your financial life as well, as it pertains to this one particular set of problems most men have. And believe me, if they have it in these two aspects of life, and these are two pretty big aspects, they probably have it everywhere else, and you probably have it everywhere else. And please understand, I can empathize with this because I have been here myself. And let me tell you that being on the abundance side is 500 times better than being on the scarcity side. These poor people are so miserable. Most of society is. And as contrarians, we strive to be the opposite of this. So the solution, which I barely even talk about, I just try to point out the fallacy in their stupid logic. But what I think would be a great idea for a lot of you out there, if you are interested in dating more and having a better dating life than you already have, again, like everything, it comes down to psychology. Most people do not understand the very basic psychology of women. They don't understand that women see the world and process the world completely differently than guys do. They don't also understand that women, because they weren't big and strong enough to fight and kill animals, have had to survive and prolong their evolution in completely different ways. And that does not just leave you. Do a lot of things they do seem fucked up to us? Of course they do, yeah. But in so many ways, it's actually not their fault. It's your fault. And it was my fault for sitting there being upset that women didn't think and behave like men do. That was always my biggest gripe for the longest time. And I was always so frustrated. Like, I would still date quite a bit, but if I found a girl I would like, I had a really hard time keeping her. And I would get so mad and frustrated when she did things that didn't make any sense to me. And I just couldn't wrap my stupid head around it. And then I think around 2013, I read a book called The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. Now, what's interesting about this book is a lot of people will dismiss it because this is where the genesis of the whole alpha male movement came from. And people absolutely cringe when they hear that term because so many people, after this book came out, took this concept and ran with it. And whenever that happens, these concepts just get bastardized and lampooned in so many ways. And its reputation just becomes shattered, which is really a shame. Because what he was talking about in that book is nothing like you see nowadays. The book is mainly meant for you to understand female psychology in only a way a man can explain it. And he does such an amazing job. And I'm telling you, if you read this book, and I recommend you do, you will look back on moments in your life and you will be like, oh, fuck me. I messed that situation up about as badly as I possibly could have. I was just sitting there kicking my own ass over and over as I read this book. But this book instantly made my dating life better. Now, you have to be very careful here as well, because you can read a book like this and instantly turn black pill and just be angry and bitter at women for the rest of your entire life. Don't do that. Again, women can be great. The vast majority of this shit depends on you and what you do and how you handle it. And I've read hundreds of books in my life. Very few of them, especially later in life, have a profound impact on me, but this one really did. And then if you want to take it from there, there is a man out there named Caleb Jones. Some of you might know who he is. He is a Paraguay maximalist. He bounces between Paraguay and Dubai. He is in his 50s. He is married, but he also has sex with much younger women. And this whole process, or this whole mentality, is called Alpha Male 2.0, which is an unfortunate name because, again, so many people see that and they totally dismiss it because they're so used to seeing these complete D-bags on YouTube who took that concept and went the wrong way with it, or they just really hate guys like Andrew Tate, whatever the case is, and now, like we said before, they dismiss the entire space. Well, Alpha Male 2.0, for what it's worth, is very different, and it was created to be very different from what was currently out there. He talks about Alpha Male 1.0, which is your guys like Andrew Tate, which does have a lot of good advice, but a lot of people just aren't like Andrew Tate. And so it's not the best thing to emulate. Alpha Male 2.0 is kind of for the rest of us. I just discovered Caleb really not even a year ago, and he has two different sides to what he does. The first side of it is a lot of what I do here. He talks about five flag theory and living in different places. And so when I first heard of him, I was instantly on board because he was saying all the things I was saying. I'm like, yes, exactly. Yes. Perfect. Like I'm listening to his podcast and I'm on my walk and I'm sitting there like fist pumping. I'm like, yes. Like that is a perfect way to articulate that point right there. I could never do that. But then the other side is the dating side. And oddly enough, I have been doing a lot of what he was doing this whole time. So I instantly agreed with a lot of what he said over there. And I was like, man, if more people just knew about this and understood it and implemented it, God, they would be so much happier. So out of everything I've ever read and taken in on the subject, that would be the progression I would recommend. Rollo's book first. Step 2, don't let it turn you into one of these women-hating, bitter MGTOW people. And step 3, progress over to the Caleb Jones side. Now, this is going to take you forgetting a lot of things you think you know about the, quote, alpha male space and having an open mind and listening, which is also what I recommend you do in the financial space. Find some people out there that you disagree with on things, that you think are scummy or douchey, and maybe just go listen to them. Find a 10, 15-minute video they put out recently and just listen to what they have to say. And see what you can take from it. You may not take much, but you're probably going to take something useful. And God forbid, maybe it's something useful that will be with you the rest of your life. Like I was able to do with ICT. Like I was able to do with Peter Schiff. Like I was able to do with Ty Lopez. There's just some great information there that most people will never have the privilege of gaining because their girly little emotions won't allow them to. And finally, understand that a scarcity mindset is going to get you nowhere, and an abundance mindset opens the door to so many wonderful things. You just have to close your eyes and go with it. It's scary at first because most of us weren't taught this way. I mean, I know kids that were. I grew up in the Midwest. I knew kids who were like at age 4 were catching snakes in the creek and, riding dirt bikes and were super aggressive and just had this why be scared of things you don't need to be scared of mentality. And let me tell you what, as I got older, those kids just ran everything. They didn't have a care in the world. They were always amazing with girls. I mean, dumb or smart, those guys just kicked ass, and I always wished I was like them. But I was raised to be scared of most things. I was raised to not take risks. And I was also brainwashed into thinking a lot of things that were completely untrue were in fact the gospel truth. And it set my own development behind probably by decades. And thank God I came out the other side. But the biggest part of me doing that was realizing that very last part, that everything in life that happens to me is my fault. The good and certainly the bad. Even when the bad stuff isn't really my fault, I still take ownership of it. Another guy, Jocko Willink, taught me that. Another guy that rubs some people the wrong way for some reason. Glad I took him seriously. To this day, I still get emails from people thanking me for bringing him into their lives. And it's all because I approach these things with an open mind. Taking risks and owning your mistakes and having an open mind for some reason is really hard. It's so much easier just to sit back and say, fuck that guy. Scammer. Fuck those trash hoes. Fuck that entire country. All the women there suck. It's dangerous. I don't want to go there now. Okay. I mean, just know, man, there's a better life out there. And I want this for you. Not because I know you personally and I care about you that way, but I do know that like does attract like. And if you've stuck with me this long, you're probably on my team, and I want my team to win in all aspects, not just finance. So I'm okay talking about these uncomfortable subjects because it has to be done. If I lose a few of you along the way, then that's just how it's got to be. Because at least in the areas of life, the very few, which I am comfortable talking about, because I feel like I have a big enough sample size and a lot of experience, and to where I have been on the wrong side and ended up over time on the right side, all I can really say is, having the numbers and having reality on your side is really, really great. And I want this for you. Now, I'll even do you one better. I'll do something I normally don't do. If you didn't know, this podcast does go to YouTube, and on YouTube, you can comment on things. And if you would like any type of help on the dating side or on the financial side, as it pertains to the things we talked about on this episode, please keep it topical. It drives me nuts when people come to my investing podcast and ask me Forex trading questions. Inappropriate. Just go to the video it pertains to. I can see all new comments on my back end, regardless of which video they're for. Oh my God, VP is so amazing. He responds to people's comments from videos from 7 years ago. Yeah, because they pop up in real time. Yeah, it's magic. But just know I'm not going to be gentle. I'm going to tell you what I really think. So just make sure you can handle it. I'm sure you can. Like I said, most people who listen to this podcast pretty much get it for the most part. There's just a couple kinks to work out, and that's what we're here to do. But all the best, contrarians. Thank you for sitting through this. I hope you got something out of it. We'll see you next week.